Yes, and we're live. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Your Sense What. If you're watching for the first time, you're welcome. Your Sense What is a monthly series where we explore inspiring stories of accounting and bookkeeping firm owners who are building their dream firm and a life that they love. And today I've got an incredible guest. I've got Mike Sylvester. Yes, Mike Sylvester. Definitely you're going to introduce yourself, but is the managing partner of SBS CPA Group, and is I'm a big fan because I follow you on Twitter. Your conversations, especially in the tax Twitter community, is interesting, right? So it's such a great honor to have you on this our monthly series and get to know you better, Mike.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I don't know that it's a great honor, but I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so yeah, we're just going to go right into it. Mike, kindly introduce yourself to our audience.
Mike Sylvester, I'm the managing partner of SBS CPA Group. We're a public accounting firm. We specialize in small businesses. We have about 600 small business clients. We're a firm of 11. We have 3 partners. We've been open since 2001. I got involved really in 3 and 4. I went back to college when I was 37 years old because my wife was running the firm out of our house. It was
Wow.
going really well. I helped her part time during tax season. Believe it or not, I like doing tax returns. Most people don't. I do. At the time, I was a maintenance manager at a factory. Our entire family thought we were insane. There was almost a small intervention. My wife did not think that I was insane for leaving a good job as a maintenance manager and going back to school. I became a CPA in 2007. I actually quit my full time job in August of '04. There's only 2 years in our marriage where we drew down our savings, and it was when I went back to college full time. I carried tools for many years. I was in the United States Navy. Accounting and being a CPA is my second career. In fact, they're about the same length of time. I've been in this profession slightly longer than carrying tools and being an electrician, etc.
Hmm. Wow. That's amazing. That's a huge leap, like leaving your job.
Oh, yeah. You ought to see what my family and friends thought when Karina and I had a building built. And when we moved in, there were 2 employees, she and I, and it was a 2,100 square foot facility with 7 empty rooms.
Wow.
They thought we were totally insane. And we've outgrown that and moved since then. It worked out, but it was a big leap.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, an interesting thing about your bio, right? One of the many interesting things is that you've been to 37 countries. I feel like you update it like every time you go to a new country, you always updating your bio, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
it's so impressive. So I would like to know like what ignited your interest in traveling.
I'm kind of an amateur history buff. I was really into studying wars when I was a kid and in high school. When I joined the military, believe it or not, there was multiple different things I looked at doing. One was being an Army CID agent, which is a very, I don't know what I would be doing now had I gone that route, because then you're basically an internal investigator in the Army.
Mhm.
And I also considered being a linguist in the Navy and being a nuclear technician in the Navy. And believe it or not, I was a big Star Trek fan. There was this William Shatner video with nuclear power being the final frontier, and I fell for it. So I was a big Star Trek fan. So I joined the Navy and went down the nuclear power path. Now, when you're on a submarine, I got to see quite a few countries. I didn't see them for long. I mostly saw bars because, you're at sea for 4 months, you pull in for 4 days, you're a young man who's single. Well, bad things happen. And you just go out and blow off steam. So I went to a lot of countries, but I didn't see much. When I got out of the Navy, my wife really likes to travel. So we decided that we would travel a lot during our marriage, which we have. And we actually eventually moved to Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is 84% of the national cost of living. Great place to raise your family, but it's not exciting.
Wow.
So before we moved to Fort Wayne, my wife made me promise her I would take her cool places on a very regular basis. So I do, because you don't make my wife. She'd be disappointed if I did not. And I owe her that because she moved back to Fort Wayne.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So just like piggybacking on the nuclear submarine that you mentioned, when I think about it, it's a bit scary because I mean you're on a submarine for months, you're not in contact with family, with friends, it's just you exploring the world and things like that. Can you just like give me a backstory behind it? What piqued your interest in doing something like that?
Well, when I was in school, you go to school for almost 2 years before they put you in a nuclear power plant. When I
Okay.
was in school, the master chief in charge, he basically said, "Hey, you should do something for the next 4 years of your enlistment that's different. If you're from the East Coast, I suggest you go to the West Coast. If you should do something different and kind of make it an adventure." Out of my class that graduated from prototype, which was the last stage of training, only two of us did not go to the shipyards to the USS Enterprise. I'm one of the two. The guy that had the highest score got to pick where he went, and the guy that was first qualified got to pick where he went, and that was me. So I picked a West Coast submarine. Why did I pick submarines? I have no idea. Um, I really don't. I think it was probably flashing back to the William Shatner video because there were all these cool pictures of submarines breaking up through the ice and doing all of this. It was really a random decision.
Wow.
Um, and in fact, my son's in the Navy now. He's on a destroyer. They aggressively pursued him to be a Navy nuke on a submarine, and he just laughed at them and said, "No, my dad did that. I'm not doing that. He's told me stories. I'm not interested in that." Being on a submarine is a different world. Submariners are a different group. Back when I was in, there was no computers on the submarine when I started. We got what was called familygrams. They were generally 50 words, and you might get four of those or five of those on a 3 month run. And we would get the news every couple of weeks, and it would be like a 200-word thing that would say something like, "The Packers won the Super Bowl 27, and give you the score." You had no idea what was going on in the world back then. You were under the water, you were hiding, you were out of touch. And it is hard to explain to people. It is a very different world, especially when we went up to the North Pole. You're under the polar ice. There's nobody up there. You actually don't even take the entire crew. You thin down the crew a little bit. You're actually told that they want you to sleep when you're off duty because they don't want to make noise because there were Russian submarines up there looking for us. It was a very different world going to the North Pole. I'm sure the Navy has changed a lot. I mean, this was 89 to 95.
Wow. And you were not scared at any point that, okay, what's going to happen today? At any point?
Was I ever scared?
Yes.
The North Run, there was a couple times it was a little intimidating, yes, because we were under the polar ice.
Yeah.
Sometimes we had to break up through the ice. I was actually on the USS Pintado. It was a 637 class submarine with a hardened superstructure, meaning that we would get, if we needed to break up through the ice, we actually had a scientist we carried with us. His job was to tell us if we could break through the ice or not due to his machine. He was like an ice specialist. I don't even know what we paid him to make that decision, but he was a civilian. He went with us. He would take some readings. He'd say, "Yep, you can do it." Well, if you get caught up breaking up through the ice, you're up there by yourself. That was intimidating when we actually broke up through the ice. Now, if we could, we didn't break through the ice. We would just pull up next to an iceberg and
Hmm.
we'd moor to it. And basically, what we did on that run, and I don't know if we still do it anymore,
Hmm.
but back then we were really worried about the Russians shooting nuclear missiles across the North Pole because back then there was really no bases up there.
Yeah.
So we would send a nuclear submarine up there every year, one, and it would break up through the ice in 5 places.
Hmm.
And we set up temporary installations to detect incoming Soviet missiles. and then we would set thermite charges on them so that they would be blown up and drop to the bottom of the ocean so the Russians couldn't see them.
See. Wow.
So that was a weird run. It was fun. I actually stood on the actual magnetic North Pole, but it was a weird run. And we had a guy that we had to evacuate off the submarine. He couldn't handle it. Not everybody. If you're claustrophobic, don't go to a submarine. That's just not a good idea, right? I'm not. Small dark places don't bother me.
No. Thanks for that heads up because I'm actually claustrophobic. Thanks for the heads up. Wow. I feel like you've lived a lot of lives, Mike. You've lived a lot of interesting lives. So now bringing all these pieces together, you have an amazing diverse background, right? Submarine, traveling, maintenance, like bringing everything together. How has that like influenced your perspective as a CPA, as a managing partner in the current work that you do right now?
So I'm a guy that honestly can say I know a little bit about a lot of things. I
Hmm.
have multiple college degrees in nuclear engineering, maintenance. I have a bachelor's degree in accounting. I have an MBA. I'm a licensed electrician. I really do know a little bit about a lot of things. If you pull in my garage and look at my tools, you do not think I'm your CPA. You go, my God, this man has every tool known to mankind and he's well organized. But what it's done is it's given me a different perspective than the average person who runs a firm. I've never worked for another accounting firm other than my wife's. So I often tell people my biggest strength is I never worked at another accounting firm. And my biggest weakness, I never worked at another accounting firm. I think both are true. But for example, we pay our employees hourly. We pay overtime if you work over 40 hours a week, right? We march to a different drum
Hmm.
because I think I never worked at another accounting firm, right? So my perspective comes from the Navy. It comes from working in steel mills and nuclear power plants and foundries and a Pepsi plant and a factory where half of the workforce was in the United States illegally and the other half of the workforce was from Appalachia.
Hmm.
And my employees, my maintenance team, most of them could not read beyond maybe the sixth grade. I actually had to make procedures with pictures. So I have, I would say I have done a lot of different things.
Hmm.
I have seen a lot of different things, and I look at things a little differently than your average number cruncher.
Hmm. Wow.
There's good
That's
and bad to that, by the way, but it makes me different.
It does. It does because you, like you said earlier, you had to like create your own rules. You are not following preset rules. You are making the decisions, just running it based off of your experiences, which is really cool. And we don't really see a lot of that in some of the accounting firms that we have right now. Just pretty much impressive. Right. Now, still like dialing on your accounting firm, the progress you've made, you've, yeah, you've managed like currently managing over 600 partnerships, right? So I believe that each of this management style requires a unique approach. So do you want to like highlight some of the strategies, the ideas, the process that have like contributed to the success of SBS CPA Group at the moment?
Well, it's managing 600 relationships is hard. All of our clients are different. We have
Mm,
three partners, and we each handle our own clients, not each other's clients. The three of us all have a different style. My wife, Karina, she's pretty laid back. Um, my partner, Brent, and I, well, we're both military veterans. We're both kind of alpha, aggressive, blunt people. You know, when I onboard a client, the first thing I say is, I'm blunt. If we have a meeting, you will leave it knowing what I think. You won't wonder what I think. You might not like what I think, but you'll know what I think.
mm,
And you know, it's been interesting because since our partners really don't necessarily fit the traditional mold. I mean, my partner Brent, he was in the Army. He spent time in Kuwait. He was in the National Guard and got activated. You know, he and I don't look at things quite the same way as necessarily your
Mm,
traditional accountant. We both went to school late. Karina's a bit more of a traditional accountant, but I have a very different philosophy. My philosophy is employees first. We haven't had it. We haven't had turnover in 4.5 years. Not a single person. We pay people more than what is normal. I currently can hire. I have two people, a CPA and an EA, who want to switch to my firm from a top 50 firm because my employees work 1,904 hours a year. That's not billable hours. That's total hours. That's what they work every year. And they have 37 3-day weekends a year between April 15th and December 31st. So my staff is happy. My staff, it's a Monday. There's only 5 of us here right now because the other half are off. Mondays and Fridays are a ghost town.
mm,
Why did I set up that arrangement? It's really because of my experience in the Navy,
mm,
because they worked us to death and it got old. And it really taught me a lot of things about the world. It's also why I don't have salaried employees,
mm,
because I tend to think if you get paid a salary, they can make you work more hours for the same salary, and they will. So I don't have any salaried employees. In fact, the partners at my firm, we're paid overtime too. Everyone in my firm is paid overtime if you work over 40.
wow, that's I need a minute to take that all in because it is rare to find. I mean, a lot of people say right now that they don't know why some students graduates don't want to work in the accounting industry, why they are not interested in accounting, why they don't want to do this and that. And I feel like if they would consider things like this, not overworking your employees, giving them time off. I mean, you just said you give them Mondays and Fridays off. These are like perks that would jump at anybody. But I feel like they are not considering things like this that would attract potential accountants or EAs to even be interested in working in the industry at all. Because people see accounting as a profession where you have to work yourself to death.
Well,
Yeah.
I have hired 3 people from other firms. I hired one from E&Y,
Mm,
and that's my partner, Brent. And he was working at E&Y, and I said, I will pay you more than they do, and you will work less. And he came and worked for us. I met him in college. He's been working here since 2008, and he's our partner. I just hired a person from a top 10 CPA firm, and she says we pay her about 10,000 more a year, and she's going to work about 350 less hours. And I hired a person from a small firm, and we pay them at least 20,000 more than they were making there. But
right.
what that's done is it's given us a happy staff. A
Mm,
happy staff makes everything work.
true. True. Very, very true. Very true. So now, bringing this, you have a clear cut process for achieving success. But I going through your profile, right, especially on Twitter or on your webpage, you recently launched the collaboration room, right? You recently launched the collaboration room, and I'm thinking, how are you merging the work that you do and still having the time to coach business owners, get people to be more interested in the accounting profession, giving ideas on how to make their job easier. So I just wanted to like speak more on that, what the collaboration room is about, what really sparked your interest in doing something like that, knowing that you still have like your job to do.
Okay. Well, the first part of the answer is going to be the simple part. The second part is going to be hard. The reason I have time to do this is I've learned what the word no means. So I have 520 potential new clients that will reach out to us this year with spending $0. I am good at marketing. We have set up a good marketing funnel. We get a lot of referrals. We get a lot of people that find us on our website. There's a shortage of accountants. And if you're watching this and you don't know that, you should change your practice knowing there's a shortage of accountants. It lets us change everything. So By learning the word no and being able to accurately predict the amount of work we do, I basically keep track of how many new clients we need to add.
Mm,
Once we have enough new clients, we say the word no. We don't take on more new clients, because if we do, then everybody has to work more. If
mm,
everybody has to work more, then people don't enjoy their life. Since 1015, I've averaged 32 hours a week, just like my staff. Now, do I do that year round? I do not. I'm moving in that direction. I'm making progress. I'm cutting about 100 hours worked at SBS a year. That is my goal, is to get down to working the 1904 hours my staff does. I'm not there. One partner's there, two of us have a little ways to go. But as far as the collaboration room, what happened is, if you follow me on Twitter, I post a lot on Twitter. It is my vent space.
mm.
I do not use it looking for new clients. You could not read my Twitter account and think Mike's looking for clients, because Mike's venting. But I get a fair amount of new clients from Twitter, because they're people who are not getting answers to their questions, and they think, well, Mike's blunt, he'll answer my questions, right? So when what's happened over the last 18 months is at least 200 firm owners have reached out to me for help. And they've said, hey, you have this schedule. How do you make it work? And I probably have given 150 people free advice on the side, sometime for hours, because I like to help people, because I wish I would have known today what, well, I wish I would have known 20 years ago what I know today. So I like to help people who are starting out or who want to improve their firms. Well, I kept doing it one on one. I did it through text, I did it through phone calls, I did it through Zoom meetings, and I just helped all kinds of people. And it was very rewarding for me. But it got to the point to where 3 or 4 people were asking me for help a week, if not more sometimes. And it overwhelmed me a bit. It wore me down a bit. So I decided that I wanted to set up a space that was, instead of one to one, was one to many.
Mm,
So I can give a section on marketing or starting a firm or the lessons I learned. And instead of talking to one person, I may be talking to 20
yeah.
at once. So it made it less time intensive for me. So what I did is, instead of doing as much free consulting, and I still do some, I did it yesterday. I spent an hour during an NFL game advising a person who's buying out his 3 partners exactly how to do it and how he should structure the deal. And yes, I'm going to do some paid consulting for them later, but I did it free. And it was actually during the Detroit game. And, it went pretty well. We just did it all through direct messages and Twitter. But what I decided to do was see if there was interest in the community. And I basically put out a tweet, and there was a lot of interest in starting a community. So I said, I don't want to do it by myself. So about a dozen people said they'd like to be involved with me. Well, one of them, Rebecca Driscoll, she's about 20 years younger than me. She's tech savvy. And one of my other friends said, you need to talk to her. She's perfect for you. And she is. We offset each other perfectly. It's like, I don't know, Beauty and the Beast, old, young, progressive, not progressive. I can be the grumpy uncle. She can be the person that makes you want to think you're being let go as a client to help you, while I might be the person that's saying you're fired. I'm tired of you, right? We are night and day, and it's really going great. But we've set up a community so people can join. They pay a monthly fee. They get access to a bunch of live sessions. We have posts. We have various items. We're in the process of adding a website with content. I believe in the last 12 months, I believe over 250 firm owners have reached out to me for my beneficial ownership information engagement letters. And I believe over that have asked me for my Cognito client onboarding forms. So I don't believe that I really have any competition. I I turn clients away. So I'm happy to help people And I don't know why that mindset's not more prevalent, maybe, right? I mean,
Yeah.
most firms are full, so why not share your best practices with other people? That's what the collaboration room really is. I mean, this month we have 14 live sessions with
Mm.
7 speakers, on a wide variety of topics. It's been fun. It's very rewarding for me. Also, my wife has been pushing me for maybe 2 years to
Yeah.
figure out what I want to do when I retire because she knows I can't just retire and do nothing. So we read a book about retirement and it said, hey, have a plan for what you want to do. And I had been waffling back and forth between traveling around and teaching CPE because I like to help people and teach them, or running a community. And it looks like it's probably going to be running a community. Though in the community, we're getting certified to teach CPE, and I'm greatly looking forward to doing that next year.
Wow.
We're actually going to offer, marketing classes that are worth CPE and things like that inside the collaboration
Mhm.
room. Extremely excited about
That's impressive. If you're watching this, if you get to watch this, jump on the collaboration room like ASAP. ASAP. I mean, you have the wealth of experience, you have the knowledge, you have basically everything to give out to people, right? To give back to the accounting community. So if you're watching this, jump on the collaboration community. Now, bringing this back to travel, right? You're running a community, you're managing over 600 partnerships, you have a lot of stuff going on, right? And you still make time for travel. So my question now is, how do you manage multiple time zones, deadlines, and client requests while traveling?
it. That's simple. So my wife and I knew we wanted to travel. I promised her that we would travel when we moved back to Fort Wayne. I mean, I
Mm,
promised her, and that was in 1999. So after we started our firm, it became hard for she and I to travel. We had 2 little kids, and we were struggling to travel. I remember being in Rome. I remember being heading to the Vatican, and I remember one of her clients calling and her having to spend a half hour on the street in Rome explaining something about payroll taxes to her client. Well, that kind of set me off. I didn't like that, and then I convinced my wife that we needed a third partner so
mm,
we could travel, and Brent would take care of things when we were gone. So when we travel, we're going to Texas for 8 nights, 9 days in November for Thanksgiving. I won't talk to any of my clients while I'm gone. Zero. Zero, nada, zero, none. My clients don't have my cell phone number. Nope, they don't have my cell phone number. They can't reach me when I'm on vacation. My autoresponder is epic. I sometimes will post it on Twitter because people find it funny. It'll say something like, I'm on vacation. I need to be on vacation. I- If you have an emergency, they're extremely rare. I only see a couple a year. But if you really have an emergency,
yeah.
well, don't leave me a message. Don't send me another email. Instead, um, call my office and talk to someone, and they will help you. And
Mm,
they're more than capable of helping you. And if you leave me a message or you need something from me and don't get my staff to help, I'll be happy to help you. It'll be 2 or 3 days after I get back, and I give them a date and a time. And that's exactly what I do. Do I check my email when I work? I generally do. I find it easy to kind of go in and check my email every other day. It
mm,
generally takes me 10, 12 minutes. I will forward things to a specific staff member and say, get back to them. I will delete them. I do that because otherwise I come back and I spend a day sorting my email.
mm.
So generally, the only thing I will do is sort my email every other day. Now, certainly I have the capacity to remote in. If there's something that's dire, I will remote in. I haven't remoted in because something was dire in at least 4 years. And we travel 4 or 5 weeks a year. So I can travel and do travel. And what's interesting is we have 3 partners and 2 of us travel together because we're married. Now, my wife, who's a wonderful person, she spends a little more time on vacation dealing with her clients.
Okay.
That's her choice, right? My
Mm,
partner Brown, he travels. He does a little more than I do too. I just say, Nope, we're done. I'm on vacation. So you asked how I do it? That's how I do it.
Oh boy. That's a really strict process. I love it. I love it because some clients tend to overdo it sometimes. If you give them an inch, they will take a full mile. They will constantly bug you when you should be like enjoying your time off. I love it. I love that strict rule.
In my early Twitter days,
Yeah.
maybe 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago, somebody doubted my message. So I actually put my phone number on Twitter and I said, why don't you call and read my message and transcribe it for everybody else if you don't believe it's as blunt as I said? Oh my gosh, that went viral. At least 200 people called my office to listen to my message. It was, I might do it again. It's pretty funny, actually, right?
Yeah.
People laugh just like you are. They're like, you can't be that blunt. Actually, I
Mhm.
can't.
I
And
can. I'll show you.
yeah. mm. Well, I'm going to assume that if you follow me on Twitter, I probably sound in person just like I do on Twitter.
Yeah. Actually, there's no difference.
That's exactly the way I am. And like I said, the first thing I tell new clients is I'm blunt.
Mm,
It's the first thing I tell
oh
them
my.
every time. And have I lost a few clients over the years? You bet. That's
Mm,
okay. There's 520 more potential new people calling without trying.
yeah.
I mean, I don't want to lose them over it, but some people want a different personality, and that's okay, right?
Mm. And it's beautiful when you get to make the rules. Like when you are the one calling the shots, you are not at the mercy of clients. Yes, I enjoy what I'm doing, but I'm not at the mercy of clients. I am not at your mercy.
I believe that as a group, and I think we're getting better, and I think the younger generation is making us better. I believe that we are bad at setting boundaries. And
Mm,
I believe what has to happen is firm owners have to set boundaries
mm,
and they have to explain those boundaries to their clients up front. And if I have somebody that does not honor the boundaries, they get free to seek other accounting opportunities.
mm.
And then
Yeah.
some of the other people who are watching this, you get them because I don't need them.
Hmm. Oh my, that's so interesting. So you've been to 37 countries, right, Mike? Have you ever experienced culture shock in any of the countries? And if yes, how did you overcome them?
So I've been to 37 countries. We went to South Africa this year. Um, if I've experienced, there's only one place where people have been rude to me, and that was France multiple times. And that's not culture shock, it was just surprising.
Mm,
And culture shock I have experienced. I've experienced it in several South American countries and in South Africa. And in China. I actually
mm,
had a lady push me out of her shop with a broom in 2003. Now that was before China had anywhere near the contact with the West. She actually didn't want a non-Oriental person in her shop. She was a much older lady and it was actually a big city in China where that happened to me. But I was there when I was a maintenance manager and I was building machines and teaching them how to use them.
mm,
And we had like a joint venture with them. You won't have very many people on your show who have had a contract to fly to China and fix equipment, but I had that even when I was a CPA. I had a contract to do that for 5 years after I left that company. But there is culture shock. At that factory, they had a barbed wire fence, they had armed guards, they had camps outside of the factory. If you were on the east side of the factory, you were you were the relatives of a person who worked in the factory. If you were on the other side of the factory, you wanted a job at the factory and you were waiting for those people to get hurt.
mm,
Uh, the level of poverty you see and how people are treated in third world countries is staggering. I remember watching children looking for food in a trash dump in Rio de Janeiro. I don't think I will ever forget that. Um, the poverty you see in some of these places is staggering and makes you appreciate what you have.
Mm, true, true. That's so true. That's so true. And the beauty of traveling, which I think you've gotten over the past couple of number of years that you've been traveling, is the able to see life in another perspective, right? I mean, if you go to South Africa, you've seen the life there, China, Rio, like just see what the culture is like and see how people actually live. It's an amazing thing to do. It's an amazing experience. So
It has really made me appreciate
yeah.
America, to be honest with
Mm.
you. There's a lot of people that maybe complain about America, and I think you should spend a week in one of these third world countries and look at what some of the people there go through, because it is terrible.
Yeah.
I'm not saying America's perfect. We're not. We're far from perfect. But my goodness, we're in a place where people can make it and have better treatment than other places. South Africa was. There were some painful places we went there. Some of the museums and some of the
Mm.
things about apartheid. And then we actually drove by several very poor communities with people living in tin paper shacks, and they have
Yeah.
like this taxi mafia, which is how they get to work, and like the police are afraid of the taxi mafia. And I mean, it's crazy. It's a great place to visit. I enjoyed it, but my goodness, there's some poverty there and
Wow.
some inequality that's staggering.
Amazing. So now on the flip side, aside from the culture shock, which of the countries has been like your favorite out of all the 37
Well,
countries?
it's Switzerland. My wife and I have been to Switzerland multiple times. We've spent about 6 weeks in Switzerland.
Wow.
We went to Switzerland for 2 weeks a couple of years ago. I love Switzerland. Switzerland's beautiful.
Mm.
It is a wonderful place. It is my favorite country in the world, specifically a place in Switzerland called Steiner. I've been there twice. It's on the Rhine River. It is a beautiful, beautiful place. But Switzerland's my favorite. Second prettiest is probably New Zealand. We're going to go back to New Zealand. We only
Wow.
spent a few days in New Zealand. Hobbiton was one of my favorites, but yeah, I'm a geeky Lord of the Rings guy as well. It was fun. Maybe next after that might be southern Germany and Bavaria.
Mm.
I like that. I think when we retire, my wife and I think we want to spend a month in Bavaria, a month in Switzerland, maybe a month in New Zealand. Those might be some of the first trips we take.
Wow, amazing. This has been an amazing conversation. You have no idea, Mike, how excited I am to be having this conversation because you don't often get to see a lot of firm owners or even accountants talk about their life, right? You're always like talking about the work they have to do, the clients, but I can go through your TL, right, on Twitter, and I can count the number of tweets about accounting that you have because you always talk about your lifestyle, the countries you're visiting. Maybe once in a while, talk about the tax season, right? Once it's tax season, talk about it, the work, the things you have to do, but you don't really see a lot of people create a balance. Like, yes, I want to work hard, but I also want to have fun and have a balanced life. So it's so interesting to see, and I'm so thankful we're having this conversation.
Well,
Yeah.
and tax season's tough at my firm. It is. But non-tax season is really good.
Mm.
I mean, my wife and I are definitely going on at least a 2 week vacation to Europe in May of next year.
Wow.
Vienna and Prague are coming, right? I mean, that's where we're going to spend our 30th anniversary.
Wow.
And I look forward to these foreign trips, and it kind of gets me through tax season. If I don't
Mm.
have a trip scheduled to a country during tax season, I struggle. I look
Mm.
forward to these trips, right? They mean a lot to my wife and I. And it's easier for me to work 60-hour weeks if I know I'm going to spend 2 weeks in Vienna in May.
Mm.
It helps me, right? It motivates me. My wife and I spend a lot of money on travel, and we've always intended to do that, right?
Yeah, it wasn't a plan. It wasn't a plan. So you're quite like an explorer. You love adventure so much. I mean, you want a submarine for crying out loud. You explore life. So I want to ask, how has this experiences shaped your perspective on the essence of life, on how important living actually is? How has all these experiences that you've had on the submarine, as a maintenance guy, how has it like shaped your perspective on the essence of life?
I think what it's done is it's made me appreciate that I have it pretty well. I grew up extremely middle class. My kids did not. Karina and I have done pretty well. We're both CPAs. We're both partners in a firm. But my kids have been to 20 foreign countries too, because we took them with us, right? My kids have been around the block, and I'm pretty happy about that. We had enough money to pay for their college. We've given our kids a better start than we have. And to me, what I think I've learned is I regret that I worked as much as I did, and I've taken steps to fix it the last few years, right? I wish I would have realized this 20 years ago. I did not. But what I've done in my life is I've worked a little too much,
Mm.
and I've saved a lot of money. And we're going to retire a few days after my wife turns 60 and about 7 weeks before I turn 62.
Wow.
So we're going to enjoy our retirement. You think I've been to a lot of countries at 37? Talk to me when I'm 70. If I'm not at 75 or 100, something went
I love
badly, badly wrong, right? When we retire, we expect to add 5 to 10 countries a year, especially when we're young, right? Because it's harder when you're older. We've
it.
actually saved countries that we think are easier to travel to when you're older and haven't gone to them yet.
Mm.
I haven't been to England or Ireland, but I think since I speak the language, I can go there when I'm older, and maybe I'll go the adventurous places when I'm younger, right? That
Mm.
we've actually made a plan to do it that way.
Wow. I love it. Oh my God. This is motivating me to like, because I love to travel. I'm currently in Nigeria, right? Lagos, Nigeria. So exploring countries like that is a bit, should I say, a little bit difficult because you have to apply for visas and stuff like that. So it sometimes throws me off balance. I don't want to go through the process, but listening to you talk about your experience and even your future plans is motivating me. I won't I won't even lie. I love it so much. But now bringing it into like for firm owners that would be watching this, right? What advice do you want to give them, like to see the world and explore their passions while also running their firm?
I think the key to that in our profession is to, if you work for another firm,
Mm.
to consider either starting your own. There's a wealth of opportunities now for people there has never been a better time to start a firm or be a CPA or an EA than today.
Mm.
I also think that there's a growing number of firms like mine where you can work for them. They will appreciate you, they will pay you, and they won't work you to death. So
Mm.
I think there's too many people who are stuck in traditional firms that expect them to work 2,400 hours a year. And
Mm.
if you work 2,400 hours a year, you are not going to get to 37 countries by the time you're 57. It is not going to happen, right? You don't have enough time. You might have enough money, but you don't have enough time. So I think the key is to either start a firm or join a firm that embraces a philosophy similar to mine.
Mm.
And there's a growing number of them. I'm not the only one. My firm is unique in certain ways, but there are plenty of other people who have firms that are great that have models similar to mine, and some of them probably have models better than mine. Let's not be arrogant, right? There's a lot of smart people out there running firms, but they're not traditional old school firms that are forcing everybody to work 2,500 hours so the partners can make $1 million each.
Mm.
I don't make $1 million. I don't need to make $1 million. I share more of my profits with my staff so they don't leave, so I don't have to train new ones. Right? That's a philosophy. That's a choice.
Mm.
Right? It's a good choice. It's a
Yeah.
choice I don't regret.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Wow, I've learned so much. Listening to you, Mike. Thank you so much for coming on board and sharing your story and experience with us. But before we wrap this up, where can I know you mentioned earlier the collaboration room is open. So how can people get to know more about the collaboration room? Where can people find you on social media, on LinkedIn, and basically your info, where people can reach out to you for advice or link up with you?
I think the easiest way right now is probably to follow me on X.
Okay.
And on X, I am at Fort Wayne CPA. It doesn't get much simpler than that. It's at Fort Wayne CPA. If you don't use X, what you can do is we currently have a sales page that's associated with our circle community. And you can get to it at, I've got to look, the
Okay.
collaboration room dot circle dot so. So it's the collaboration room dot circle dot so. And we're probably going to upgrade to a website. So the best way is probably through Twitter. You can also contact me through my firm's website, which is sbscpagroup.com. S is in Sam, B is in Bravo, S is in Sam, cpagroup.com. You can actually send me an email through there, and I can, send you whatever links you need as well. Like I said, I talk to a lot of firm owners, and in fact, I have probably done one-on-one consulting with at least 50 paid consulting engagements in the last 12 months. Mostly when I do that, I'm talking to people who are deciding if they want to leave their firm, if they want to buy a firm, maybe the firm they're at. And a lot of times I say, no, you don't want to buy that because it's a mess. I'll actually help some people do due diligence when they're buying other firms. I'm big into helping people figure out if they're at the right place, if they should start a firm, if they should buy a firm, which firm they should buy. And if they buy a firm, I have several who have hired me to help them make sure the firm they're buying is not garbage.
True.
That's kind of fun for me too. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy doing that. And, I do some of that through the collaboration realm and from some through my CPA firm.
Amazing. Great work you've done and you're still doing. So thank you so much for your contribution to the accounting industry, the community, tax Twitter at large. It's amazing to see. Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you once again, Mike, for coming on board and sharing your story. This has been um, a really great conversation, and I'm sure accountants, firm owners listening to this would definitely pick one or two strategies to implement, not just in their firm, but in their life, so that they can uh, create a balance between the work that they do and living a fulfilling and impactful life. So, thank you once again, Mike.
You're welcome. It's been fun meeting you. I've enjoyed this.
Thank you. Thank you. So, I'll end the live stream now.